You're a professional. Fucking act like it.
Let's go.
How's your day going?
It's well. I mean, we're early into it, but
Yeah, super early.
but I feel good. I feel optimistic today.
Okay. You want to tell me why?
I have things to do. That's
Okay.
always a like
Yeah.
having things to do for me. I think takes precedence to actually to like having money. It's just like I need.
We don't need to get into how little you care about having money.
Right. But I mean, like, yeah, that's something I've realized is like, yeah, being able to get out and like do things.
Waking up and realizing that you have a productive day ahead of you is a good feeling.
It's a very
I'll agree
good
with
feeling.
that. All right, let's get into it. A lot of this. I mean, this was a big weekend.
Yeah.
For sports.
Yeah, and I'm gonna
Well,
need you
mainly if you were a football fan. I don't. No, there were some basketball games going on, but obviously not as important as playoff football. Playoffs started. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you know the outcomes of all the games and have your opinions, but I'm gonna save you and say we don't need to talk about that. No, so I feel like we should address because we've told the fans of the show on some level that you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
and they did not have a favorable outcome.
They got boat raced, which is my favorite way to describe a game. I
It's
don't even
the
quite
best
understand
one.
it because I've never seen a boat race or necessarily know where that started from. But saying a team got boat raced is, I think, my favorite thing.
Yeah, I mean it's it's like the worst feeling if you hear like somebody say it about you.
Right.
Like, yeah, you got boat raced.
Yeah, because my favorite part about it is I'm not even entirely sure what it means, but I know exactly what it means when someone says it
Right.
about an outcome of a sporting event.
Right.
So do you have any opinions of why that happened? Do you think, let me ask you this, do you think it's a good thing or bad thing to start the playoff game, first play of the game, you snap it over the quarterback's head for a touchdown for the other team? You think
Yeah.
it's a good way to start the playoffs or a bad way to start the game?
I'm gonna go with bad.
I think I can say universally that's a bad way
Yeah.
to start a playoff game.
Yeah, I think most people would agree with you.
Right.
I don't think that really splits a crowd at all.
They were down 28-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was possible.
I mean, you knew it was possible.
I mean, the amount of times it's happened in a playoff game.
Yeah.
I think I saw it was the first time it's ever happened in a playoff game.
Yeah.
But actually, I gotta be honest, most of the games I didn't think were that like good.
No.
Like they weren't really that exciting. I feel like the Bills Colts game kind of came down to the end. It was tough seeing Phillip Rivers try to throw a Hail Mary into the end zone and just does not require the arm strength needed for that situation. Yeah, that was probably the best game. That was the first game. And then all the other games, I don't know, they just didn't feel like they were that exciting unless I'm missing one.
Yeah. And you said you weren't super excited about the national championship.
Well, I was excited about watching it.
Right. I'm saying it was as far as how it went.
Yeah, in the beginning, the first couple drives, they were like trading touchdowns, and it seemed like, this could be a battle. It seemed like the kind of game where it was just like, you have two really high powered offenses, and it's going to kind of just go back and forth with teams scoring, and then Ohio State just stopped scoring, and Alabama just kept scoring.
Yeah.
Because Alabama has the greatest receiver in the history of football.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking about college football.
Oh, wow.
I'm saying at this point, because I don't know what type of pro he's going to be. I don't know what type of team he's going to go to. I'm talking about Heisman winner Devontae Smith.
Mm-hmm.
I have been, because this guy, he was the guy, I don't know if you remember when Alabama beat Georgia in the national championship on like the long touchdown pass from Tua. I know you remember it. Don't say anything. I know you remember it.
Right. Of course I do.
It was Devontae Smith when he was either like a freshman or sophomore or something like that. So I'm saying from the start, I feel like he's been at Alabama. For the amount of Alabama games I watch, because they're constant on TV, I've never seen a guy open as much as he's open. Like I remember watching like Larry Fitzgerald at Pitt and like Calvin Johnson at Georgia Tech and like dominating guys, right? Like you couldn't cover them because they were just so dominating. But like occasionally they're making like contested catches, I feel like.
Right,
And they're just
right.
out muscling you.
Right.
And Devontae Smith does that, but like to the extent where he's just always open blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because so much of football is your game planning, right? I have to think the game plan when you're playing defense as Alabama is centered around stopping Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it anytime any team plays Alabama.
Yeah. That's always a sign of like a really impressive receiver. I have to go back to Antonio Brown with the Steelers, where it was like, yeah, everybody knows this is the guy.
Right.
And like just somehow every like third play there he is wide open.
Right. Yeah.
It's like how could that happen?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Maybe I don't know enough about football because I've never been in a defensive game plan meeting for. But a lot of times, yeah, I watch these games and I'm just like, that's the guy. I feel like you got to stop. So I don't understand how that guy's always open. Like
Yeah.
Ohio State's had like 10 days to prepare for Alabama. I have to feel like every conversation starts with, okay, there's number 6, stop number 6. So the fact that he's wide open, it feels like on every play.
I feel like we're the guys that like I hate watching like a basketball game. You know what I mean? When like say Kevin Durant or someone's going off and they're going like, dude, just stop him, just double team him.
Right.
Like it's him every time, and we're going like it's not that simple.
Right.
I'm that guy when it comes down to like how to stop a elite wide receiver.
Right. Well, see, I would say if anything, I kind of used to be that. I wouldn't say I was ever like that, but it was like, okay, maybe first, like 2 years ago watching Devontae Smith at first, I was like, Alabama's just so talented and just leaving this guy open type of thing, you know. The fact that it just kept continuing, it starts going like, obviously it's something he's doing and not so much that like the defense is just forgetting about him. Like, obviously they're trying to stop him. They just can't. I wish we could have like a ex-NFL receiver or corner maybe on to talk about like how that happens essentially. I've just never seen someone just constantly that wide open, I guess. Yeah. And I've watched a lot of football.
Yeah, you do.
And most of the best receivers, I feel like, are constantly making like great kind of contested catch. I mean, obviously are open too, but just like you just can't cover them because even when they're covered, they make plays. Like that's what makes great wide receivers. Yeah. So we'll see if he can do it at the next level. But I've just never seen a guy just always wide open. And we were joking about when we watched it for a little bit. Like he caught like 2 wide open touchdowns. He was like, there he is again. Like nobody covering him. That's I'm like, this is every Alabama game. All right, so let's get into that national championship game, Alabama. The big talk is it good for, well, I mean, obviously college football in this situation, but just sports in general, to have a team that is that dominating year in and year out? And it seems to basically be like, occasionally there's a year where Alabama doesn't win it. Obviously, LSU won it last year. But for the most part, it just seems like Alabama just runs college football. Mm-hmm. Like, do you think that's a good thing for the sport?
I think that it's a really good question.
Thank you.
I think, I don't know, I guess my official answer would be no, but I love it. I think about UConn women's basketball. And like it kind of made me not take college women's basketball that seriously, because you ultimately know who's gonna win. Like you know who the best team is. You don't really have to watch the games. But at the same time, I was also like fascinated by those UConn teams, and like how is it that how is none of these players, or like nothing's happening to like offset this. Right. That part fascinates me, but no, I don't think it's great for the sport.
Yeah, because I feel like with UConn women's basketball, the idea was at a certain point, obviously it was going to make, in a way, like other teams better, which is what happened. Is then like South Carolina became really good and Baylor became really good, and like other women's college basketball programs, to keep up with them, like really, put a lot into that. And it seems like they kind of have at this point. Yeah. Where I feel like a lot of people are like, okay, that should have happened by now. And I think to an extent, probably more with like Clemson, it has, where they're like more equals. But I just think most people, I think it's like good for like a few years almost, where like UConn's run seemed like, I don't know, like they went on a couple different ones, but I mean, I guess they kind of ran it for like 10 years-ish. But like, I don't know, I just feel like with Alabama, it's just like, how is this still like a thing? Like it feels like more teams would have like caught up to them by now, or at least like, I don't know, I guess like at least like make it a game. It's like no one can play them other than Clemson. Right. Like Clemson, or then like if LSU can kind of match them, but there seems to be like 2 or 3 teams that even have a chance once they step on the field. And I would have considered Ohio State one of those teams, and they still got boat raced. I just wanted to throw that in there.
I know you did. Yeah.
So like that's where I'm like, I don't know, because I love watching college football, but I also see people like you, and I've seen a lot of people be like, it's hard to get into it when it's like, I know in the end it's going to be Alabama. you know?
Yeah.
And I do get that, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think that part's I like dynasties, you know, like, because a lot of people also said similar stuff about like the Patriots. You know, it was always like they're in it every year, but I'm like, yeah, but like they could lose, you know. And I like watching that, where it's like sometimes it feels like with Alabama, it's like, no,
Right.
they're not gonna lose.
Right. Yeah. We're not necessarily talking about the ones that like just do it repeatedly,
Right.
but like, you know, it's a struggle, or it's like, you know, they could be an underdog one year, they, you know, whatever.
Right.
But like, yeah, the teams that where you just know going into the year what's going to happen.
Because that was
and it happens.
That was the thing with the UConn women. I remember is that like when they're in their win streak, it was a little bit of like, yeah, no one needs to watch this or follow this. We all know how it's going to happen. And then once they lost, then it was like, oh shit, like now I should watch because that's possible. Kind of thing. It's almost like
And then
when
they
you
just
have,
went on another win streak.
yeah, but okay, but I'm saying like normally in these like dominating dynasties, it seems like it's not till it's over that where like people will then be interested in it. It's like I need to see it. I need it to happen first before then I'll start like watching. But until it happens, I'm just going on the assumption that they're just not going to lose.
Yeah.
And I remember that was kind of with the UConn, because I remember the game that UConn lost like most recently. This was like a few years ago off of their streak when they lost in the Final Four. I want to say, I don't think it was South. I think it was Mississippi State. I want to say, but they lost in the Final Four. The girl hit the like last second shot or something like that. And I remember like once that happened, it was like a big deal. And I remember I was in New York. I was visiting my sister and my brother-in-law, and like I got an alert on my phone. There was like 2 minutes left. And I was like, this is the first time in like 3 years that UConn hasn't been up by like 15 with 2 minutes left. Like not even like they might lose. And like going to ESPN and be like, oh, I want to see this shit now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't willing to start and watch this game, but now that I know that they have a chance to lose, like now I kind of want to see it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't think it's bad to appreciate like a really strong dynasty of a team. I am starting to kind of see with like Alabama. It's like, okay, let's
wrap
move.
this shit
Yeah, like come on, guys, like compete against them. You know.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of think maybe if they, I know a lot of people don't want them to expand the playoff in college football, but I kind of feel like maybe if they did, the big picture, like ramification of that would be that more teams eventually cop to Alabama, because it would give more teams a shot to at least get in there. Would then in recruiting, it would be like, yeah, see, you don't have to go to Alabama to play for get in the playoff or go to national championship.
Right.
Like, yes, first couple of years, Alabama playing the 8 seed or 7 seed or whatever it is gonna boat race. But like, I think over time, I think it would help on the recruiting trail, kind of for that, you know, for the other teams in the SEC, kind of even to be like, hey, see, like we'll get to play them type of thing, like in the playoff, like if you come here. And I think, because I think that's kind of what happened in college basketball. Why it started spreading out is like, you come here, we'll get into the dance. You know, we'll go to March Madness. You don't have to go to Duke to go to March Madness or to win a championship type of thing.
Yeah,
so.
that's why it was so, that was the thing that was so fascinating to me about those UConn teams, was just that, like, I mean, obviously, was it Gino Auriemma? Is that how you say his name?
Sure.
He like obviously great coach, all that, like, but like, you know, players are players. It's
Right.
like, why are they getting the, you know,
Right.
why is their starting five better than everybody's best player?
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, because football, and also with football, it's just like even the years that like Alabama doesn't win it, it's like the measure of success is so different in football than basketball or any other sport, just because of sample size. Like the fact that they're in the playoff every year.
Because what Alabama's doing is every year big time programs lose a bunch of guys, right? They go to the NFL, and Alabama is like their backups. It seems like the second best team in the nation a lot of years is Alabama's backups. You know, like
Right.
they just have no. He's like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be a first rounder, not next year, but in 2 years. So he's this guy's backup, who's gonna be a first rounder this year. So like every year they just like, oh, they lost a bunch of guys. It's like, yeah, but wait till you see the guys they got just waiting.
Yeah.
And like you're watching a game and a guy gets hurt, you're like, oh man, that guy got hurt. That's a big deal to them. Like, no, this guy's even better. Actually, he's just younger. You know?
We talked about that in like minor league baseball when those prospect loaded teams, like you played the Rangers affiliate when they had all their guys, and you were just like, You know, I had the same thing where it's just like, oh, this guy's finally out of
Right.
here, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh no, the next guy is actually the guy that's the guy they really like.
Yeah. This guy was filling that guy's spot until he was ready.
Yeah,
You thought you got rid of him.
yeah,
No, this guy's even better. Yeah, that was yeah, the Texas Rangers. I remember playing them in Hickory. That was their big thing.
yeah.
'Cause they had the best minor league lineup. There's a lot of stats that like back that up, so it's not just my claim of like what they're able to accomplish.
I think I remember reading about that team in like, is it Baseball America, the magazine or whatever that you would have in the clubhouse.
that is a magazine. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I've never read that in a clubhouse, but I'll take your word for it that it's in the clubhouse. But yeah, they set a lot of records for like a minor league team, and it was funny that like playing them at one point in the season and then playing them again, you're like, oh shit, we're gonna play this lineup, and it's like, oh, they lost a couple of their guys, so they got called up, like we're good, and the people they called up were just better than them. So you're like, oh, it's just like a never-ending thing. That's cool. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about, because I was thinking about it over the weekend, and I thought would be an interesting conversation, is the idea of like when you're a kid and you're growing up, both of us wanting to be professional baseball players, I'm sure at a very young age, wanting to be Major League Baseball players. And every kid, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this, because I'm not talking about just every kid that wants to be a Major League Baseball player. I'm saying every kid that ends up going on to play pro ball, when they were a kid, were the best player, in their league, little league, high school, whatever they were, like they were the best player. And then you go on to the next level, and you're like, oh, this is just a collection of all the best players from like their towns, essentially.
Right. There's so many more good players.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've gone my whole life just being able to dominate, essentially. Mm-hmm. And now I'm facing all the guys that have all dominated their entire lives, essentially.
Yeah.
So one of us is not going to be able to keep dominating.
Right. Right. Some people are going to stop dominating.
Right. So like that realization when you get to that point of like, oh, wow, there's a lot of me's.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I find that kind of fascinating because there's a lot of different, because the conversation came up where I was talking to like someone else about something completely different than sports, where I was thinking, yeah, that just happens a lot in a lot of different professions where it's like, when you start, it's like you're the best at it. Growing up, like, oh, he was so smart in this, or he was so good at that, and then you get into it, and it's like all the people that are competing for this have all gone through the same path that I have, and like that realization of like, because for you were drafted out of high school, right? Mm-hmm. So then that first experience would have been pro ball.
Yeah.
Where I went to college for a little bit, but even right getting to college, I was like, I remember. I'll tell a little story because I think it's funny. I remember my. Sounds funny now, but it was like right before my first like inter squad in college. I was very excited. I remember talking to my roommate, also both freshmen, and I wasn't trying to like sound cocky because that's not who I am. But somehow we were having a conversation where I mentioned to him that in high school, I don't remember if I gave up a run, didn't give up many, and I know I never given up a home run.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, dude, I honestly don't think I've ever given up a home run. Like now that I'm like thinking about it, I didn't pitch that much, but I was like thinking about that. And he was like, yeah, man, that's like, that's crazy or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then first inter squad gave up multiple home runs. I was like, oh wow, these guys, okay. I didn't realize they hit them off me.
Yeah.
I knew they hit them. I just didn't know I was capable of giving them up.
Right. You'd never seen it from that angle.
Right. And like now I look back at them, like that's the best thing that probably ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Is realizing that like, and that's what I mean by like that realization that like you're not just like, obviously I still think I'm good, but you're not just like the best one. Like this is, everyone here is the best one from like their hometown essentially.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I just find that realization.
Yeah. The like whenever that happens, it's like playing the game becomes like so much different. It's like, cause it's like before, I don't know, everything just has that like lens of like, this is going to go well.
Right.
I'm going to get a double today at least. Like I'll be disappointed if I don't get 2 extra base hits. Whereas like now, basically since I've been in pro ball, it's just like, let me just get a knock,
right.
And it's like, and like, I don't know, just like that perspective switch.
Right.
And it's really interesting, especially like being drafted out of high school and going to the GCL, where people are like so like vastly different as far as like how they got here. You know, you got JUCO guys, you got some 4-year guys, you got a lot of high school guys, a lot of Latin straight from the academy, and like seeing different people. You see some people failing for the first time.
Yeah.
And, you know, and it's like,
Yeah.
and it's a very interesting thing to watch
Right.
as far as like how people like deal with that.
Well, because every time I always think it's funny when I see like the like guys that win MVPs or the best players in major leagues or whatnot, and then like they'll show like their high school numbers,
Yeah.
and they're just godly. This is an example. I don't know if this is true, but like Mookie Betts, had like 700 his like senior year in high school,
Right.
and like obviously like a guy like Mookie Betts is a great player and obviously worked out for him. But yeah, I find it interesting like that first time he would have gone to like pro ball, it's like, oh, these guys can actually get me out.
Yeah.
No one's been able to get me out.
Yeah.
Even like, because even like someone like that, like I played with. I know you don't like name dropping, but I'm gonna do it anyway because
yeah.
I played with him, and he was the greatest hitter I've ever seen. Like personally, was Alex Dickerson, who's now a member of the Giants, San Francisco Giants. And I remember in high school, like I don't remember anyone ever getting him out. If he got out, is because he got himself out. He just happened to hit it like right at someone. Like I don't remember anyone ever like beating him.
Yeah.
And like those type of hitters, like the first time when it's like, oh, this guy can actually beat me. I find that to be a fascinating thing.
The like, just to talk about myself for a little bit, because I think it's somewhat interesting.
We need content, so go for it.
Yeah. Like I feel like I kind of did the opposite, where like I had success in high school or whatever, but like I had kind of a rocky path as far as like I was ineligible for a couple of years. I didn't play a ton of high school baseball. And going into pro ball, I remember just thinking like, yeah, this is gonna be really tough.
Right.
Like I didn't expect to be really good, and I wasn't, and like moving forward, of course, like I learned to set like higher expectations for myself, and like, and I obviously started to like find some success and everything. But like, I remember it was kind of more of like, the transition was more like when I actually started doing well, it was like, oh, like I can actually do this. Like, this is crazy.
Right.
And like, I mean, I'm not saying that's the right way
Right.
to go about it, because in a lot of people's situations, that first year, you're done.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be in a patient organization.
Right.
But like,
So you kind of had the opposite
yeah,
approach of what we're talking about.
yeah, like
Because I've played with guys where, they'll still have good years their first year, but it's so much down from what they're used to. So it's like a guy hits 300 on a season. That's an unbelievable year, right?
yeah, that's
But if he's
100 points down from.
Yeah, but if he's only ever used to hitting over 400 or over 500, and some of these players that like in high school, like, yeah, that you talk about like real, like being able to accept the first time that they've failed, essentially, and that's not failing, but like more failure than they're used to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, numbers aside, just like
Right.
the amount of times going back to the dugout after you're at bat, you're like, this is not how baseball is supposed to go.
Right. This is not how I know
This
baseball.
isn't the game that I grew up loving to play. This is torture.
Yeah.
Like, like, why am I getting out? Or like the pitchers, like, why am I still on the mound? There have been 8 hitters that have come to the plate already, and it's like, yeah, this is what the game can be for you now. Like,
Yeah. Like as a pitcher, it's like, listen, every time I've done that sequence, I get this good result for myself.
right.
So does that mean I don't know how to pitch anymore? Or, like that, but that first time you kind of get hurt by it. And for me, it was like, I kind of felt it right away, even before, pitching. And like, that's where I talk about like why it's so interesting to me of every one of these guys have grown up being the best guy. And like, it just felt that way to me, even before pitching of just like, yeah, you're gonna have to work for this.
Did you feel more of that in college than pro ball?
No, I wouldn't say more. It was just college was the first time I felt that way.
Right.
I would say I've definitely felt it more in pro ball, but just college was that first introduction to that feeling of like, one of these guys are just bigger, just physically bigger.
Yeah.
And it just like, you could tell the way they took BP, the way like it just every level you go up, it just I feel like also people are more serious about it.
Yeah.
And so you start seeing like just the way they prepare, like all that stuff is like, okay, this is different. This is more serious.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You gotta really lock in here. Where it's not that you're not locked in, but it's just like, because I always say what I think is funny is like literally every Major League Baseball player, I'm assuming this to be true, was like the greatest little leaguer probably in their like little leagues like history, or at least up there if you play little league. And
I think there's some. The only thing I could poke a hole with is that like there's probably some guys that picked up a batter glove late, but yeah.
Okay. You think
I think that exists. I'm not. I can't
played
point
with
to
those guys in the minors. They just never made it.
Yeah.
So I'm saying you think I didn't know many of those guys that ended up making it to the big leagues.
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, continue. Because I think your point
I
is
was kind of done, but
oh okay.
I was just saying like maybe I'm not talking about it like explain it like I want to, but I just find that to be a fascinating thing. Is that like first realization for an athlete that you're not alone in being really good, essentially.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned the great ones in the game now, like the Mookie Betts or whatever. And I remember name dropping, playing against Acuna and Devers, and I played against those two in the same year. And I had the same realization with both of them, which was like regardless of what's like good about what they do or whatever, it just looks like they're playing the same way that they might have played when they were like 8 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like it's not so much that they like figured something out. It was just like that they hadn't had to adapt because what they started with was so good.
Right.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And yeah, like kind of that, like it was like kind of the opposite realization of just like what it must feel like to continue to dominate.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. Like I don't know how that happens. Because obviously their numbers probably went down from when they were
Right.
kids.
Right.
But
Do you want to transition into a conversation about now when you get into pro ball and like you see that prospect and you're like, wow, this guy's different than everyone else.
yeah, they're yeah.
Because a lot of times, at least for me, I would see guys that were prospects and I'd be like, they're good. I'm not saying they're not good, but no, I think the gap between him and most of the other guys is not as big as people want it to be.
There's some people you see that are just different.
And then occasionally you just like, it's like for a hitter, just the way the ball comes out the guy's bat, the way he takes pitches, the way he swings at pitches. And then pitchers, you're just like, this guy's different.
Yeah.
And like every guy has those like couple that's just like right off the bat. And at least for me, like I was never wrong about it, you know? Like every guy felt that way, like ended up being and is still a very successful big league player because it was so like obvious that, and you don't know any of these people, and so much of being successful is obviously, you know, personality and whatnot, but just like how many guys you see that you're just like, because there's always so much hype around these guys. And then for me at least, the majority of the time I'd see them and be like, they're good, but no, they're not where a lot of people are talking about. And then occasionally you see the guy and you're like, okay, yeah. They're right about that.
Yeah. yeah. I mentioned Acuna.
Yeah,
That was
I remember you telling me about Acuna, like right when you got called up, like, dude, watch this guy.
Yeah. That was
like every bat he's taking BP.
Yeah, that was the it wasn't the first guy, but probably the guy I felt the most about that, where I was just like, it's not gonna be like that for me ever.
Not with that attitude.
No, not with that attitude, but also like if I'm being real, like it, you know, like
Right.
I'm not even saying that to be down on myself.
Right.
Just like that's how good some of these people are. When you see them, it's like this is a different kind of person. Like, there's all of us playing this game, and we're all, some of us are doing better than others, but we all could be achieving about the same things. It's just kind of almost like a matter of, not, I don't want to say a matter of chance, but just, you know, small variables. And then there's people that are just drastically, like their floor is higher than everybody's ceiling.
I remember my first guy for that was Giolito, and I remember watching him and being like, yeah, I think I can, and obviously at this point will be a successful Major League Baseball player, but that's not how I'm going to win.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to win the same way that he's winning.
You know who the first one was? Oscar Taveras. May he rest in peace. And I remember I remember we were all in extended. He was there too, and like the talk was like, because we were in the outfield group, and we're like, yeah, we're competing for 2 outfield spots in the big leagues now. You know, because that one is,
Right.
that one's locked up.
Right. It's so true. It's such a, it is, I don't know. It's one of the things I would say I like value most of my professional career is like being one of the first people to see some of these guys like play.
Yeah,
That
it
makes
is really
sense,
cool.
you know? And
Yeah.
it's like, hey, you should see this guy, you know, in the minors, you know, type of thing. And I don't know, like facing these guys and seeing kind of what that looks like.
Well, also like as much as we both like being right,
Right.
like the validation of, you know, what we thought then, and seeing like, you know, seeing guys then move on and do what they're doing in the big leagues is like, yeah.
Right.
You know, I was 100%.
I don't feel as bad that he got me out.
Well, there's
I don't feel as bad that he took me deep.
there's that, but then there's also like, you know, I was right. Like I
Right.
thought this was a next level player, and he is.
Right.
And then and then also the other way, like some of these guys I've been fortunate enough to have success against, and
Right.
being like, yeah, I got
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
I got him. Like as good at like, because now like his success only makes me better.
Right.
Like
If I were to ask you who's the best guy that you got, would you answer that question? You'd be like, that's not the podcast. What it's gonna be about.
who the best guy
Yeah.
that I've got one off of.
Yeah.
No, I'll say I think I'll say Musgrove.
Okay. Which is an interesting one because we're probably gonna have him on at some point.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have him on. That's why I'm saying it, because
Okay.
it's somebody that I would talk to.
If anything, that you're just giving a lot of respect to Musgrove.
Guy's a hell of a pitcher,
Right,
man.
you're saying
and
he's
he's
the best guy
also
you've ever
and also I feel comfortable because he's gotten me way more than I've gotten him.
Right.
So it's
Which is usually the way it's gonna go.
which is the way it usually goes. But for me, as far as like talking about, like if we were to talk shit, like that's the, like pitchers and hitters talking shit, I think like the best situation for that to happen is when like a guy's striking out a good amount and also hit a home run. Because then it's like both people are like somewhat satisfied.
I've always kind of been under the way I go about it is if a hitter at any point hits a home run off a guy, like he got him. Like if I'm facing a guy, and I struck him out 5 times, but he hit a home run off me, I'd be like, yeah, you got me.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because I almost feel like, yeah, I'm expected to do what I'm doing. Like I have the advantage.
Yeah.
So if you do that to me, it's like you really beat me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's because I totally understand that, and like logically that makes sense, but it's just like the way that like you have to approach hitting, which is just that like you're gonna fail most of the time. It's just like, you know, like I would think like if I was a pitcher and I struck out, you know, 4 guys and gave up a home run, I'd be like, that was a good 5 batter sequence.
Right.
You know, I'd be really happy. I was 4
Right.
for 5, but that's not how you
Right.
think about pitching.
If we faced each other in a season and we faced in a game, like during the season, we faced each other in a game, and you went 1 for 4 off me with 3 strikeouts and a home run, would you not say you won that matchup? Because I think I would. I'd be like, damn, D-Wash got me.
I would call it even. I feel like a hat trick is
Maybe.
probably worth a home run. Because any more than that, the home run is kind of just like, yeah, at least I did some damage when I got him though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I might be like, yeah, D-Wash beat me. He got me today.
Because like
Maybe-
because
this
like
might-
if you take it down to a double,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? A double is still like I'm still beating my chest for a double, but like, you know, like 3 strikeouts to a double, you'd be like, yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, because I'd be like, yo, I'll strand him at second. So he won't even score. I feel like this might sound fucked up, and I don't want you to take it the wrong way, but it's like, this isn't a personal attack on you in any way.
Ah.
But it's almost like the way I view this strikeouts is like, that's what I'm expecting myself to do in a sense. Not that I'm going to strike every guy, but like, because just in pitchers in general, like they have the advantage. I'm expecting you to get this guy out essentially. So when he does that type of damage against you, I'm like, oh, he got you.
yeah.
I don't know. The more I say it, I guess the less it makes sense. I'm like, if you strike a guy out 3 times, it would seem like he did good. I just feel like if I were to face you 4 times and I strike you out 3 and you hit a home run off me, I'd be like, fuck, D-Wash got me today.
Yeah.
Like if we went out and got like dinner afterwards, I'd be like, God damn, you got me today.
Really?
And you'd probably be like, yeah, but you struck me out 3 times, so
Yeah.
we're both just unhappy.
Yeah. No, because when I hit a home run,
That's true,
it takes a lot for me to be unhappy. About
the only time I've ever seen you be super unhappy after a game is when you went 4 for 4 with 4 singles.
Yeah, those damn singles, dude.
I've never seen that in my entire life. You were genuinely unhappy. I remember we were in York. We were in York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You went 4 for 4 with 4 singles.
Yeah.
And you were pissed.
Yeah. Not the no. It like, is it the winning mindset? Maybe not. But I like it. But you know what? I'll if I was to sell it to somebody, I would say not being satisfied after that first single.
Right.
Could be why I got the second single, and so on and so forth, all the way down the 4 singles.
Okay. I'll allow that. Listen, I'm a big, you gotta have.
I did go 0 for 4 the next day. I feel like that's,
I like respecting people's processes. If that's your process, then that's your process. I understand that mindset. It was just more like how visibly upset you were.
Yeah.
With 4 for 4 single. Like everyone, any person you went up to after the game would have assumed that you went 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts.
I don't think it was that bad. I thought it was more
Agree
of
to
just.
disagree.
I thought it was more just like an inside joke kind of thing.
I felt like you were genuinely upset. At first, I was like, okay, this is kind of a joke. And I'm like, no, wait, he's actually pissed. We should probably end it there.
Okay.
I gotta be honest. I feel like this was a nothing. This was a nothing burger. But we're gonna try.
This
to
was
salvage
no.
it.
We talked about it. This is the. We went a little early. This is the 10 a.m. This is the 10 a.m. Sunday game.
I want the vibe of this episode. I want people to understand is similar to when a minor league baseball player has to play an early morning game.
Can I point out the irony of like putting this at the end of the episode?
Right.
Just in that, like,
Right.
like,
Well, I wasn't gonna say in the beginning of the episode.
well, because if they felt it, like,
They haven't gotten to this point.
they might not have gotten to this point, and if they did, they were probably like, "Yeah, this is awesome," and then
Right.
we're just like,
That is funny. Maybe I won't use it. I don't know. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Nah, I like it. Honesty, full
All
transparency.
right. We appreciate the fans that have stuck with us this entire episode.
And really, this entire run, just
The entire run, absolutely, but specifically this episode, you're not always going to have your, A game, and it's one of those days. So we appreciate you sticking with us, and we look forward to you listening next week when we're back. Follow Riding the Bus Podcast on Instagram. Subscribe to Riding the Bus Podcast on YouTube, and we appreciate. I got nothing else.
yeah. Follow. Do the personal plugs. Follow Bennett Perry at Bennett Perry. David Washington at D to the Wash.
You do all you got multiple. Instagram.
I got a bunch of them, but you can find the important ones if you just go to D to the Wash. Yeah, and let's call it there.
We appreciate you.
Yeah.